Yeah, that's right. You can call me Avio or Avio. Thank you. Thank you for having me here. I'm really happy to join this conversation. Yes, sir. Yeah, so I'm actually born and raised. I was born and raised in Mexico City, and then back in 2011, I moved to New York. So, kind of the quick background on me is I've always been in ad tech and ad sales business. I joined Google Mexico back in 2009 when business was fairly small compared to what it is right now. I was in Google Mexico, and then I got transferred to New York, which is why I ended up moving to the States. And then I worked at Google for some time doing, again, ad sales and analytics. Then I joined the Facebook team. It wasn't Meta at the time, it was Facebook. And I also did some sales there for the luxury automotive industry vertical. And then I had the opportunity to join Univision Communications. At the time, right now, the company name is Televisa Univision. Back then, it was only Univision, and I was also doing, again, ad sales and ad tech, also some influencer marketing and programmatic. And then I moved, I jumped ship to Cultura Colectiva, which is back then it was a fairly big platform similar to BuzzFeed, but they were from Latin America. They were growing into the Hispanic community within the States. And then I decided to launch my own business called Stoic Media. I'm very fond of stoicism, and it's really, I think it's a philosophy that has played out really well when it comes to managing teams, but also addressing the overall media community. And I can tell you a bit about more about that in a few minutes. Mm-hmm. Sure thing. So for folks listening to this show that are not necessarily familiarized with Stoicism, in its most fundamental term, Stoicism helps or helps, yeah, helps people think about life in this way. So what you should do is focus on those things that you can actually control, right? You can control your thoughts, you can control your breath, right? But then there are certain things you cannot control, right? So for example, let's say you're driving in your car, you get hit, you get hit by another car, you have an accident. That's not that was not something that you planned. That wasn't something you could control at that specific moment. So Stoicism would approach that situation and say, hey, you should not spend energy, frustration, and time thinking about what you could have done if it wasn't under your control. So basically, what people should do is focus on those things they can control, and try to live a happier life controlling those things, and not focus on all the other things that they cannot control, because that in a very short term, that's kind of a waste of time, right? Because you can't do anything about it anyway. So if we bring that philosophy in a company, which is what my co-founder and I have tried to do over the past couple of years, is when it comes to our employees and collaborators that work on Stoic Media, we try to permeate this philosophy into the day-to-day lives of Stoic Media's employees. Anyway, so and how do we do this? Basically, we're whenever we hire someone and we go through the interviewing process, we have a very deep conversation around what makes them happy, right? What is happiness for that person, and how does, what does that day to day look like for that person? And so what we want to convey is the fact that, at Stoic Media, we want to help them focus on them being happy. Now, what does that mean? Them actually doing the things that they can control, right? Dedicating time to those things that they can control, which is their skill set, their work, right? And we also tell them that at Stoic Media, what we want to do is we want to take away or not have them worry about those things they cannot control, which is maybe contracts and managing day-to-day relationships with clients. So, for example, again, we're a group of animators, journalists, and content creators. So, a 2D animator, that person might be at its best version when they're actually performing the work of animating a video or assets, digital assets, and that's what they are good at. They might not be good at negotiating contracts or reviewing legal documents or other things that don't necessarily fall within their scope of work. So again, go back to Stoicism. When we go through that interviewing processes, we ask them, what do you like to do? What is it that you enjoy doing? And how do you control that, right? So most of the answers we get is, what my best version of myself is when I really get immersed in my work. And, when I do this or that, when it comes to animation, in this particular example. And so through that process is the conversation then steers to asking about, how they would like to work within an organization. And that comes to, and this is where I bring up the fact that it's a fairly horizontal organization. We don't like to, this is not a kindergarten. We want to hire professional, dedicated people that like what they do. That's the most important thing, right? And so that way we kind of marry the Stoicism philosophy within the media production sphere or industry. And then, we whenever we hire a new person into our team, we want to make sure, and we pretty much make sure that that person is committed, that they're professional, that they know how to manage their time, that they can be independent in a way, so that way they kind of work for themselves as opposed to working for big ladder hierarchy / organization where they're just going to try to keep on climbing. So yes. Exactly. Mm. Yes. So I would say, when folks are assigned to certain projects, right? It could be, again, working with a big broadcast network, it could be working with a brand, and it could be within different fields, right? So journalists, again, writing editorial content, 2D animators, bringing a lot of animation to life, coding. Do we have developers, coding or iterating on websites and developing rich media and whatnot. So what ends up happening is when we assign a person to a project, we have a conversation around what does time look like in terms of, weekly hours, given the scope of work that you're going to be working on. How do you believe you'll deliver the best version of your product to the client? Do you feel it's best for you to work mornings, evenings, during the night? How would you like to get compensated? Does that mean you need biweekly, payroll biweekly? Do you need monthly payroll? Do you need advances? Right. What we want to do is take all that burden that they're not necessarily controlling. We want to make sure that they feel comfortable, that they feel happy, that they feel that they're being taken care of. That they don't need to be worrying about, I'm only going to get my payroll, 3 weeks from now. But guess what? I just had a life-changing event that I did not expect, and I need some cash right now. Just kind of thinking out loud. There's an open channel where they can come to, again, escalate these issues and say, hey, would you mind upfronting a portion of my payroll, a few days or weeks in advance so that I can take care of this or that? That's fine. As long, again, what we're looking and what we know we have is these are great people. They're adults. They're responsible. And they're responsible because I believe the organization has enabled them to be adults and responsible and own their responsibilities, right? And so anyway, that's how it works, right? So again, the organization tries to takes care of all that stuff that they cannot control, and have employees feel like they don't need to worry about those things because the company's going to be taking care of that. So that way they can really focus on their work and be happy doing the things that they like to do. So that's how it all comes together. Now, it's horizontal because, we're not a huge company, right? We're not hundreds of people. So maybe at this, and I guess this is my personal thoughts, I wonder if this works at a much larger scale, right? For, thousands of people company. Maybe yes, maybe not. So at this point, we're 35 people, and it's worked so far because people, as I said, we're not micromanaging people. Yes, we do have, weekly or biweekly calls with everyone, one-on-ones, to make sure that they're on track with deliverables, that the client is happy, and so on and so forth. But at the same token, they don't need to be constantly reporting up the ladder on every single thing they do, because we know that the client is happy, that they're happy, and kind of things are flowing. Throughout the contract, of the term of the contract that we're working on with a client. So that's how it all kind of comes together. Mm. So I would say on a day-to-day basis, engagement slash so employee slash manager engagement isn't as frequent. Is not as frequent, which is counterintuitive. And why is it not as frequent? Because again, the organization delegates the responsibility and expects the employee to own that project and to be responsible about it with all its nuances. So that way they can feel free to take on that project. Obviously, apart from that, the organization has direct relationship with the client just to make sure that things are running on track. You got to keep track of that. But as long as we know that the client is happy and we're constantly asking for their feedback on our team's work. There's not the need for us to be on top and on top of the employee and micromanaging and asking for reports and asking for presentations and feedback and because we know that the client is happy, we know that the employee is happy, and nobody wants to be micromanaged. Nobody wants to be having to fill out Excel sheets and spreadsheets and reports, and I don't think anybody enjoys that at all. Now, it's mm-hmm. Right. So as long as you exactly, so there's exactly now and I'll touch on that specific point around asking for help because we do have a mechanism to help people raise their hand. Not only help them raise their hand, but incentivize them to raise their hand because there's compensation associated when people help each other. And I'll share a little bit about that in a second. So just to close this idea that we're just talking about. Again, people do not want to be micromanaged. They want to do their work. They want to focus on the things they like. And as long as they're delivering the assets or their work on time, as long as the work is of really high quality per the client's expectations, there shouldn't be a need for anyone to be, bothering on asking for all these reports from folks. Yes, we do have our internal reporting, but it's at its minimum amount if possible. We don't want to have all these spreadsheets flying around. Anyway, so that's one thing. Now, when people actually cannot get the work done, what happens? Because that happens often. Hey, I thought I was going to be able to finish this, this 3-minute video in 2 days, but hey, guess what? It's more difficult than I expected. And by the way, the client wasn't really clear with us on what they were expecting, but they just let us know that it's going to be a little bit more complex. So we already committed to certain deliveries. So what happens is we have a whole, we have our Slack channels on, and we have our internal community where if let's say one video animator, one video editor is not able to complete or is having trouble completing certain tasks, they can post on, again, the journal channel and say, hey, hey folks, I'm having trouble with this or that with the software. I don't know how to do XYZ. Does anybody else know how to tackle this situation? And so if somebody, let's say another video editor knows how to take on that task and solve for it, that person would say, hey, that person can say, hey, I know how to do this. Let's take it offline. I'll show you how. And once that happens, the person who received the help can compensate at the company's account the person who helped them. So each person there's a system called tacos, where you actually you give in certain tacos the emoji, and each taco is worth $1, right? So each person has about $5 to give away every single day. So let's say somebody helps you throughout 1 week or 2 weeks. You can actually give them maybe $100 or $200 at the company's account, because that person was open to helping. They were open to sharing knowledge and skills, and in order to get the job done. So there's a whole system set up in order to have people help each other. And once they do help, yes, obviously they get recognition, but they also get compensated for helping each other. Well, okay, so that's a challenging question, because obviously, it'd be good if I said, yeah, everybody's great, everybody's happy. That's not the case. Every individual has its own set of setbacks and personal life, and I cannot speak about people's personal happiness. What I can tell you is that we have very, very low attrition. So that's how we sort of know that this sort of system, helps people grow as a person, grows their professional lives, but also allows them to, again, dedicate their time to things that they like to do. So it's very rare that we hear someone on our team, hey, I hate working here, or, I don't feel happy, or nobody's recognizing. We barely hear that. And we know that because most of the folks that are working have been with us for some time now, and again, what we try to do is, because folks are kind of scattered, or, not everybody's in the office, we try to do kind of offsites to, have conversations about what's working, what's not working, what's going on in the industry, feedback around internal ops, just to get a sense of, what they're at. It's hard enough to have everyone, work on their own projects, let alone understand how everybody's doing in the same company. So again, what we're trying to do is have open channels for people to express themselves. We never punish anyone or retaliate against somebody, saying something negative about Stoic Media. It's actually welcome. If somebody says, I don't agree how this was handled, or I don't agree how, this or that, these decisions are made. We actually, we like people to talk about these things, and we want to have a conversation. Everybody's on the same boat here. Either we all succeed, or, we don't. So again, going back to that, managerial model where you have the president, vice, EVP, SVP, then the director, the managing director, the director, and then the associate, and all the corporate ladder that is kind of, the usual for big organizations. If we take away, or try to take away most of that ladder away, and then have a very horizontal organization where people, for the most part, nobody's managing anyone. They're kind of managing themselves, because there's very clear KPIs, very clear deliverables. And so they don't need to be reporting up the ladder, or, having folks tell them what to do. So then conversations are kind of one-on-one, horizontal. Even if I'm the co-founder, that doesn't mean that I'm, managing people's work. They see, and that's how I'd expect them to see me or perceive me. I'm just one more peer of yours. My job is just a little bit different than yours. You're a great video editor. You're a great photographer. I'm not. I don't know how to do those things. I know how to do different things. So let me do what I'm good at, and then you'll do what you're good at, and we just can have a one-on-one conversation, and then figure out what works and what doesn't work, and that also, it comes to life when it comes to vacations or time off. We don't have a time off policy in the company. If you need to take a week off for whatever reason, that's fine. Let's just plan ahead, make sure that all the work that you're going to be doing, either we work on how to accommodate the tasks, or maybe distribute some of the work for other folks during the time you're off, or maybe if we can have a conversation with a client and say, this is not, this person's going to take some time off these amount of days. She's going to come back in 2 weeks' time. Don't worry about it. By end of quarter, you'll have all the deliverables set up per the agreement. That's fine. We encourage people to express themselves and to be, take that time off, plan ahead, have time with their families. If they like to work during very early hours at 4 a.m, by all means, go ahead. If you want to take, because maybe you got, karate lessons at 2 p.m. Why would I tell you it's a 9 to 5? It doesn't make any sense. I'd rather you work on the things that you like, spend the time however you want to spend it, as long as you're an adult, responsible person, knowing that you need to deliver your work in a timely manner in a very specific way, right? So that's kind of, we're all managing ourselves in the organization. Yep. Mm-hmm. 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 No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean anything. Unless you actually need to physically handle equipment or things that you need physically present. Then it makes sense to be everybody from 9 to 5 in an office or facility. However, there are certain types of jobs that it's not just not necessarily. I've been advocating in a way for us to meet at least once per week in the office. But guess what? I got a whole lot of pushback from everyone. It wasn't like a two-team argument. Those that wanted to go back and those that did not. Nobody wanted to go back. Not one single day. I even encouraged the team. We'll have free lunch, and you'll receive compensation for gas, transportation, commuting. Um, they said, look, if you want me on board, this is how I feel better. I like to work at home. I have my working station set up. And imagine that they even told me, hey, how much are you going to spend on food and on Wi-Fi and getting all this the accommodations. And my response was, why would you care? Like, why would you ask something like that? Why do you care how much I would spend? And the answer was, and actually was kind of smart. They were like, well, whatever you're going to be spending on that, why don't you send us more gear so that we can even do our work even better? And I was like, what do you mean? And then people started raising their hands. They were like, look, well, I got one monitor, I got my computer. I would like to have another monitor and a hard drive, local hard drive, and a faster CPU. And then some other person said, I'd love to have a Wacom to be able to design on a big pad with instead of having my mouse and very specific things for each of them. And so the answer to that conversation was, all right, why don't everybody just like draft their own wish list of things that they need, access to software, licensees, equipment, um, and then and if that works for everyone, we'll just send all this gear to people's houses, and then we'll call it a day. If that makes you, if you feel that that's going to help you do a better job, why would I be stepping you know, on the people's way to keep them from doing a better job if I'm the one who's wrong here by asking them to go back to the office. That's just not, it doesn't make any sense. So again, exactly. I'm not happy sitting in a car for an hour drive every, spending all this money on gas. So what? So you can see me and say hi to me. I mean, you can. I mean, I get it. It's good to have. It's nice. But listen. It'll help us more if you can send us all this equipment to our house, and then we have certain licenses to stock imagery and design like Adobe Suite and all. Hey, let's get all these other licenses so that we can even do a better job with more equipment, more software, better software, and so on and so forth. So that was the result of that conversation. So result was we're not back in the office. Everybody's kind of working from home. But everybody's at the same time, happy because they spend their time where they need to spend it and they want to spend it. They do their work very professionally. They're really good at what they do. And if somebody wants to come in and have a one-on-one conversation, by all means, let's just schedule an in-person meeting and we'll do that. Yeah, so I'd be happy to, get people's emails. My email is my first name, Aviel, at stoic-media.com. Or we have the kind of the bigger inbox, info at stoic-media.com. So again, I try to respond to everybody's email in a timely manner. By all means, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to have conversations with folks out there and talk about philosophy, stoicism, or about media animation, all things related to digital marketing and so on and so forth. So, but I wanted to first off thank you, Curtis, for this time. I really enjoyed this conversation with you. Mm. Mm-hmm.